Oh, look at this. I've got everything going on here. Oh, clicking the right buttons. I can tell you I am over peopling it today, but lucky I'm still working on that Canadian club sponsorship. So hopefully that'll come through in the mail. They'll send me something very, very soon. Welcome back to another week of Chewin the Fat with the Cap. Season 5, we know that season 4 is in the intro. Once again, I've stuffed up and I'm just going to leave it there all year and keep reminding you that we are in season 5. We are episode 2. So decided to big event on the weekend here at Mulwala, the COD Nationals. So I decided to get Boothie on regular on the show to have a talk about that. Really looking forward to it. What else have I got to talk about? I've got to talk about the electric series, the Mercury Avatar electric series. The Bluefin fishing team is running. It's on this weekend, the 26th of March at the Clarence River. Make sure if you're in that vicinity, you go and check that out. Even if you're not fishing it, that is a great competition for intermediate, beginners, and experts. And yeah, there's heaps of people that are just getting out there and having fun. It's a one-day comp. It's nice and easy, and the boys from the Bluefin fishing team are doing a sterling job at running that one. We've got heaps of people on, heaps of people logged in already. G'day, Luke. G'day, Danny, Alion, Mick, Karen. We've got David. We've got Trent. We've got Dale. We've got Bailey. And we've got a few people putting the postcodes in, so it's awesome. I don't have my little scrolling tab along the bottom this year, so I'm just going to keep reminding you to put your postcodes in so we know where you're from. And the postcode prize this week is a full set. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Molix Arshad plastics. So pretty good for your trailers, for spinner baits, cod, barra, anything. So that'll be the postcode prize for tonight. So put your postcode in so I know where you're all from. And later on, Harry will draw a question out. And these are all donated lures by people, but a big barra or outside pack of crankbaits, really cool. So they're going to the question later on. And I thank all the people that donate to the show. I get a lot of people just send me lures in and I give them away. So that's the point of the show, is just giving a little bit back. We started it, as people know, during COVID when it was all locked down. It was a bit of a shits and giggles. Now it's become a regular in the scene, and I appreciate all you viewers out there that are on there. G'day, Neil. We've got Dale on. We've got Elaine. We've got heaps of people. Yes, on the Clarence, Karen. That's the ABT Mercury Avatar. So, and this year, the grand final prize will be a bluefin boat with, I believe, a Mercury Avatar motor on the back. So you only have to fish one to qualify for the grand final, and that one was really cool. Now, I've probably talked enough. We better get the guest on and have a bit of a chat about the Nationals, because it is a sterling event. We'll talk about it in more when I get him on. So let's just make sure that I unmute his microphone so I know what's going on, because I keep forgetting that.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Good, mate. How are you? Hang on. I've done something wrong here already. I've got to solo this off. There we go. There he is.
There you go. How are we going?
Good, thanks. They've changed the program on me, and everything's in different spots. So I'll just answer a few of the things in there. Karen, yes, that's where you are. Awesome. We'll get out there and support that one on the weekend. Hey, mate, you had. I really enjoyed your social media content from the Nationals. I find we tend to get all far too friggin' serious all the time, and it's all about winning. I really enjoyed your content this week. You caught plenty of fish, obviously, but they were just the wrong size, and you decided to have a bit of fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we're all serious until we're not, and we all want to do well. But if you don't do well, it's not the end of the world. Like, just play on, have a fish, enjoy yourself. Good part about the COD Nats for me is I love most of the people there. I walk in the room, it just feels nice and safe and comfortable, and say good day to everybody. So, even if you're not having the best time on the water, and we had a great time. We still caught 45 Murray cod for 4 days, which is not bad fishing. But we just had a great time. So, all ticks for me.
Yeah, and look, the Nationals is and I've said this on the show many a times, probably one of the best comps going around. Mate, you know, in my view, probably the best COD comp going around. It's harder than people give it respect for. Like, it is probably the hardest comp to fish for Murray cod. Not many people can really contemplate or get through their head that when you're told that you can only throw a certain type of lure on a day, it can really stuff with your head. You might have a really good day, you know, on spinnerbait day, and then you can't catch a fish on hard body day. These guys like the Pinters that have 2 times and second, KD blows on the weekend, blowing it out of the water. You know, it is a really hard fishing comp in itself, just through that aspect. You know, tell us your thoughts on the whole select a lure day.
Yeah, so I really like the concept. I think it makes you a better angler, even if you don't perform real well. You still have to use a swim bait on swim bait morning. You have to use a hard body on hard body day. You have to use a spinnerbait on spinnerbait day. So it teaches you to have a broader range of skills, which I really like. I love being maybe not the best at everything, certainly serviceable at everything. So that if a situation arises on the water, I can use something that's going to work in social fishing. You know, this year, every comp you get to choose what's called a multiplier day, where you get 1.5 times your score. So before the comp starts, you have to pick if you want to have 1.5 times your score on spinnerbait day, hard body day, or the very last day when the fish are theoretically at their most stung and their most cautious. So we chose spinnerbait day. Last year it worked really, really well because we won the day. This year it didn't work real well because I think we ended up 14 cod we landed, 1 golden perch for the day, but didn't get anywhere else. We missed 21 other bites that day. So yeah, it was a frustrating but fun day. You know, if I'd have done that on a social day and had 14 cod in the bait, I'd be jumping up the air telling everyone how wonderful the fishing was.
Yeah, and you'd be sitting back telling stories around the campfire. I mean, that's what it's about. And as I said, tournament fishing can get really petty in the I'm the best, rah, 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 and guys can really take it over the board. But one thing I found about the Nationals, it really brings everyone back to the field, and everyone really enjoys it. The social side of the Nationals is absolutely awesome. If I was to be critical with the Nationals, I think the only thing that the Nationals suffers, now I've only found this out because we get caught up here, and the Nationals is always on our busiest weekend of the year in the park. I run a caravan park, and I can't leave the caravan park with Nikki when we've got a full house and whatnot. And we have Chryslers on the Murray, the big car show. People come from all around Australia with their Ballants and Chryslers, book out every accommodation hut in Wodonga and Albury. So we are absolutely smashed. So I haven't been able to get to it for a few years, obviously with the COVID break and everything else. But looking from the outside, looking in, as I said, the only thing that really suffers is I'm waiting for scores all the time. I'm looking for, somebody to, checking out who's fishing it, see if they've posted anything. There's no live scores like, say, the ABT or anything else like that does. I know it's another job for Tony to try and get his head around, but I mean, that as an outsider looking in, there'd be thousands of people want to do the same thing. If I was critical about the Nationals itself, that would be the only thing that I'm critical about. The social side of things is, the best. Everyone gets in, having your cup lunch made for you, having your breakfast, hot breakfast every morning, having a sit-down meal, even the pizza day normally at the back of the shop. You have a few beers and you socialise, you get to talk shit with people. It is really, really cool. What are your thoughts on, what could the Nationals improve in that sense?
Yeah, I think it's the way it's run. Almost to do a live card, but I'm with you. I want to be able to do stuff. The Brim and the Bass stuff, the teams events, and that live stuff is just fantastic to watch. I'm clicking on and off, looking at all that sort of stuff. While I'm fishing the comp, I'm probably not interested in looking at it. But the live stuff really isn't for the competitors because it just messes with your head, I think, if you see what everyone else is catching. So, concentrate on what you're doing, more for the people who are interested. And
Yeah.
I know at the end of the day, it's a real rush to get the scores up and on the social media page, on the COD Nat social page, because a lot of people want to know how everybody went. So I help out a little bit with that when VB's a little bit busy. And yeah, one thing we did wrong, or I did wrong last year, was only put the top 10 up for the first couple of days. And then, VB said, hey, hang on, Booth, you pull your head in. You got to put everybody up regardless of how they went, because all their friends and family are trying to see where their friends are up.
Yeah.
So, so we fixed that up this year and got some really good feedback. So hopefully, that's the best I can see it happening at the moment. I don't, in my head, and there'd be cleverer people than me could work it out how to make it live, but I can't see how that happens, unfortunately. But it would be cool. It would be super cool.
It would be super cool, and it'd be very well watched, I'm sure of it, because and to really see those bite times, I know Tony has said on numerous occasions, this is not a dig because Tony Vanessa run a really good comp. When he's sitting there and we're texting scores in, and he might get 50 or 60 fish in a 15-minute period when that bite window happens. It becomes quite critical that he's concentrating on what he does, because buggered if I can work out how to do that, how he works out the scorecards. I mean, to do that live would be impossible in itself.
Yeah, exactly. And, Tony this year, given what happened at last year's event where he upped the minimum size to 45, this year he upped it to 50 centimetres. Just to save on that workload so that mistakes weren't made, which everybody was happy with. I was pretty happy with until I caught a whole bunch of 47 and 48. But apart from that, it was. I think it was a good idea to have your scoring fish starting at 50 centimetres, and then your real important fish starting at legal length of 55.
Yeah, and I think he has a really good read on the water. He gets a lot of feedback through the shop. He would know what everyone's catching out there the weeks leading up, and he would realise that, hey, look, I've got to lift that, or else I'm just going to be filling out scorecards all day, and mistakes it made.
Yeah,
you never want mistakes made.
Exactly, and we fished okay, but we had 45 cod, and I would suggest that 30, 35 of those would have been over that 45 centimetre limit.
Yeah.
If you did that, and talking to Derek and Cade and Thomas, and they got twice as many as us, as the winners do. And he would have just been totally inundated, and pretty busy as it was. You got 150, 180 fish days, which are just the ones over 50 centimetres. So he's a busy boy, that's for sure.
And it is. That's crazy fishing, crazy good fishing. But let's talk about those boys at the top of the ladder. We'll start with second place, because Pinter and his old man have really set the bar pretty high. I mean, I know there was one day following the scores, there was one day they had a bit of a struggle for the first time in 3 years. Other than that, he probably would have, pushed up there again. I don't think they would have caught the blows, but in the sense of being at that pointy end 3 years in a row, winning it twice and coming second, I mean, that's unheard of for the Nationals, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He's actually, just to correct you there, he won it 3 times in a row. So
Sorry.
they're a bit more elite than everyone realises. And to come second and to the Blows, who fished the absolute eyes out of it this year, Thomas's score from this year probably would have won it last year. So he didn't do a lot wrong, in all seriousness. Just unlucky to come up against an on fire, Derek and Cade.
And they are red hot at the moment. Derek and Cade would go any comp at Moala at the moment. They would have to go in as red hot favourites. I know I'm going to be fishing against them in a month's time for the team's fishing comp at Moala, and I'm kind of scared, obviously, to what will happen with that one, because there'll be no minimum size on that one. But it's going to have another month on, another bit of drop in temperature and maybe water clarity and everything else. They're going to be scary good for that one as well.
Yeah, and it's no sort of surprise, I suppose, that the guys who put in the time and the effort actually reap the rewards. So, Thomas is famous for spending a bit of time up there. I know Cade and Derek spent a lot of time up there this year, which is great. If I lived, not 2,400 kilometres away from the lake, I'd be there as often as I could be. So, I think 3 out of the top 4 teams are all fairly local or visited the lake a lot. So it just shows, it's not a criticism of them. It just shows the amount of work you need to do to be that competitive.
Yeah.
Everyone says, "Oh, what do they do different?" They work harder than everyone else.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the biggest things I say on the show all the time, we talk about this in the bats with guys like Langford and Mick Johnson, it's time on the water. They spend the time on the water, they put the effort in, and the rewards come for sure. It's time on the water. There's a good question here. We've got a couple that I'll go back to later, but this one that Marie's just put up is an interesting one, which I'll read out, but it goes into another avenue that Tony has with the Nationals to make it even harder for you to catch fish. He puts rules on electronics as well as lures. So Maria's asked here, do you use live scope in this competition? Tell us what Tony did this year with the whole live scenario. What did he end up setting this year to make it harder for you?
Yeah, so I suppose we'll duck back into the history of live scope 3 years ago, and I'll blame Banksy for this. Tony was happy for everyone to use live scope if they had it, just as a trial. Banksy caught the big fish of the day, and that pretty much put the death into live scope for the rest of that comp. So the next year, which he did the same as this year, he made it the first 2 days of the comp would use live scope. Last year, not everyone was over the top of how to use live scope on the flats, and the lake was incredibly weedy. So it's really hard to use live up on the flats. And the first 2 days are spinnerbait day and hard body day, which are not what the live scopers like to use in terms of lures. So this year was a little bit different in the fact that the lake had been drained, the weed had pretty much gone. There's still a bit of weed growing back. And the boys had had 12 months more of learning how to live scope in, say, 2.5 to 1.5 metres of water. I had a good chat to Cade after the comp about how we went about it, and they were finding two cod swimming around in pairs and picking both of them off on the live scope. And so one of those was, sort of that 50 to 65 centimetre fish, and the other one was an under, but they caught both of them quite often. So, they've worked out how to do it. And again, that's that time on the water and learning your technology. And they did it really well. And, no surprise, Skiers boys, who are as good as anybody at scoping, 2 years down the track of scoping the flats, did really, really well. I think they finished 3rd or 4th of the day on the scoping day. So, they did really, really well. I'm all for the way Tony runs it. I like the way he makes it difficult. He's deliberately chosen to make the scoping days on the hardest lure days for scopers. But the anglers are that good; they're working it out, and they're working it out real fast. So it's coming, and that's great. But then you got the last 2 days, which is the dash day and any lure day, which scopers are banned. So the boat Shane and I use, we have to take the entire screen off the front of the boat. That's one of his rules. Just so we're not tempted to use it. Not that we're that good at scoping anyway, but it just shows everybody that no, we can't, even if the scope pole was say to be down for whatever stupid reason, like we can't actually use it. So he's pretty strict in it, and cool. I like it. I like the way that your day is predetermined by the organisers in a sense on what you need to use.
Yeah. No, I do, and that's part and parcel of how hard it really is. Not only, you're throwing what lure you've got to throw for the day. He has put some sort of cap on the live scope scenario, which is great to make it harder, because that's the whole thing of people want to fish the Nationals, because it is friggin' hard, and if you do win it, you've deserved it. That's for sure. But yep. I think live's here to stay and everything else. But it's great to have the dash as well. So he does a dash scenario where it's minutes for points, and
Yep.
Extras for that sort of thing as too, which stops the guys that have found fish way up the back of the river. They haven't got time to shoot all the way up there and come back. So it congests the field, puts more pressure on the water. There's a whole, relay effect with the dash. Sometimes the big boats have a bit more advantage. But that's part and parcel of why I like it, is that whole, it's just hard to do.
Yeah, it is incredibly hard to do. And I think that's why I like it. I'm probably not as competitive now as I used to be, but I enjoy fishing in and around those guys who are at that elite level. You can't learn something from them, and the COD Nats is set up so that you can talk to anyone at any stage, and most of the guys are pretty happy to have a chat. If you can't learn something new to try next time you're on the water, then you haven't really been listening too much. So, I always come away with 100,000 ideas on how to skin the same cat a different way. So, yeah, I really like that part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the, it's hard to be a tournament director, and we don't give tournament directors enough credit sometimes. Tony is pretty straight down the line. That's where you stand with Tony. And I wouldn't want to be that person that tries to cheat if Tony found out, for sure. Like, literally, you're talking about the live scope. People are out there, and some people will sell their grandmother to try and win a fishing competition. I'd hate to be that person if Tony found out.
Yeah, absolutely. He's very strong with that, and I think a tournament director needs to be. If what do they say? You give them an inch of rope, and they think they're a cowboy. That's just the way it is. And the prize money's up there at $10,000, but luckily, I think the top 5 or 10 teams are all that good that they don't need to bother about cheating. It's never really a question. I haven't heard. There are some comps where you hear people have, perhaps won because they've cheated, or there's all those stupid rumours and this and that. But you never hear that at the COD Nats. If you've won it, you've absolutely 100% deserved it. And every accolade should go to you.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I've got a couple of questions. We would answer a couple of questions because that's what we're here for. People put your questions in and get them up for Boothie to answer, or for me to answer. It doesn't really matter who you want to ask a question of. I'll go back through some early ones. We've got all the g'days. We talked to Karen earlier about the Clarence, which is cool. Evening. Connor wants to know why you forgot to sign his chest.
Connor fished with Reese as a new team. Connor fished it the year before as well, and they're going to be some seriously good anglers down there. They remind me, apart from the way they dress in their earrings and all that sort of stuff, they remind me a lot of how keen we were when we were back at our 20s. Just living it and loving it, and every opportunity they're going to get into it. So they're going to come on real, I reckon, in the next 2 or 3 years. So, I reckon I'll be getting him to sign my chest in a few years, not that way around.
Yeah, and look, I look at it the same way that Derek's done with Cade. I can remember the first Nationals that I fished. Cade looked like a little kid, and he's now out there. He's the man. He's got his own license and everything else, and doing it well. Connor's another one coming through the ranks. I like to see these younger boys really pushing the envelope, because they're the guys that really develop new stuff. And if we get caught up in our old ways sometimes, and as you said, talking to these younger boys, they give me a new lease of life and a new thought process on a lot of things. So, Connor's very much an up-and-comer.
Yep. No, I love that part too. I think, if you don't have that next generation coming through or walking through the door fishing these tournaments, it doesn't matter if they finish 25th or 14th or 45th. It doesn't matter at all. They're getting that experience. They're going to bring new stuff to the table, and that's exciting for the entire industry, not just the COD Nats. It's exciting for what's going to happen in the next 12 months of fishing. So I love it. I love seeing the new guys come through.
Yep, for sure. All right, Luke's got a question here. What's your favourite colour lure for COD and favourite technique?
Okay, if I was just caught at my whaler at the moment, I would have I use Bassman's primarily, but it's a colour 7 Bassman, which is just a drab olive green colour spinnerbait. So that would be my number one go-to at the moment. So to the point where on hard body day I was rifling through all my Gidgee lures and trying to find an olive green Gidgee lure. And he outfished me on hard body day, so it must have worked okay. So that colour seems to be working okay. I know Painter and Spider, who came fourth, they use, or Painter, particularly uses a purple with chartreuse green tips on the spinnerbait, big purple tail at the back and Colorado blades. So, yeah, it all works. I think just having confidence in what you're chucking. The colour 7 Bassman for me has caught so many fish up there. Hard bodies, I'm probably black or purple. So that would be my colours.
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Luke. Rebecca's asked, who would be the ultimate favourite cod fisher person to spend a day with, past or present?
For me, that's
present company excluded, mind you.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had a pre-fish day together, so we've ticked that box.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Yeah, there's a lot of probably some of the early lure makers. I was lucky enough to fish with Steve Kovacs way back when Custom Crafted was, one of the great. I fished with Anthony Curtis from AC Lures, so I really enjoy fishing with lure makers because they just know so much more. One person I've never fished with, I'd love to fish with, seems crazy that I haven't, is Rod McKenzie. So, I've been there when he's there, but we haven't been in a boat together and had a serious fish. I probably need to tick that box, For my generation of people, he is the guy. Fred Jobson, way back when we first started fishing, it was one of the...
Freddie run the thingo at Mulwala, didn't he?
Yeah, and then, Ray, he ran the caravan park at Mulwala, and then you had, Rod Harrison. It'd be fantastic to sit in a boat for a couple of hours with and just learn from him. These guys have got so much general knowledge about that stuff. It goes beyond anything I've ever learnt. So, all those old legends. I suppose Rex Hunt was one guy that I was lucky enough to fish with a couple of times. So, there's a few boxes I've ticked, but there's still a few out there. A whole bunch of legends from my generation that I grew up with worshipping. They're still there.
Yeah, for sure. And everyone on that list is part of the... I've been trying to tee up because Rod is a very good friend of the show as well. I've had both Rods on, and the invite's been there, but because I fish so many tournament fishing, I can't get away all the time. But in a couple of years' time, when I retire from tournament fishing, I'm going to be calling in every favour to fish with a few of those boys in their sites. I can tell you.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think tournament fishing will retire me before I retire from tournament fishing.
Yeah,
so, getting a bit old and long in the tooth, so that's why I like the next generation coming through.
Yep, for sure. All right, Zach's got a question here, and I'll kind of answer this one to start with. Zach, do you think we should run a COD Masters, something like over in the States, where the bass have and start limit of 50 boats comes down to, say, 10 people on the last day? Now, Zach, the closest thing we have to that with Murray Cod in Australia is actually held at Mulwala, and it's a Teams Fishing Australia event that is run at Mulwala. It's a two-species event, yellow and cod. It doesn't cut per day. I think in Australia we just don't have the time frames to cut per day because you need to have 3-4 days off the water. If you go into the Nationals, it's 4 days off. If you go into do Galvos, it's 3 days off. There's a week's holiday you've got to take out of your budget already in the year. But I'd love to see the Bass Grand Final run over a 3-day period. Having it cut down levels per day would be absolutely awesome. Probably the only way I'd beat Langford if he got knocked out in the previous round.
Yeah, I think you're right. Cod-wise, it's difficult, but when you have that grand final that you're pushing hard for, it seems a place to cut. Difficult to do. I think everybody wants to fish, even if you're not in the cut. You still want to go out and have a fish. You're all just angling. Love it. It'd be interesting. Actually, it'd be a good one for Morgo to look at in terms of that. So
yeah,
I'm not sure he ever will, but it'd make that push for that top 10 or the top 20 on the last day to be really vital.
Yeah, and look, back in the Bass Nation days, I know Drew in his last year before he pulled the pin on it all. He did an open event that was cut down per day, big cash prize. It was really well organised, but of course Bass Nation fell in a hole. So um, yeah, I love the concept. I really think it's a good idea, Zach. But as for whether it'll happen, yeah, who knows?
That's it.
Suppose
It'd be nice to see someone do it, but I know that the time and effort for an organizer, the money's just not in there to do that.
yeah.
I know most of the tournament organisers personally, and I can guarantee you none of them are writing checks to themselves that are really, really big at the end of it. So, I know everyone talks about these organisers making a whole bunch of money, but I guarantee you they're not.
Oh, for sure. And I'm so appreciative of anyone that runs a tournament. I know that there's always bits and pieces that go on behind the scenes, but I couldn't do it for sure. There's no way that I could put up with the shit that they have to put up with and the organisation and the time and the effort. I'm flat out getting this show up and running each week, and they're organising freaking 60 fishermen, Christ. And I don't want to sound sexist, but it's worse than 60 netballers.
Yeah, we can be a little bit secondhand, but that's
all right. Christy has said, I've not fished the Nationals, but kept up to date on Facebook to check out the results and do find the scoring system hard to follow. Is there something you can explain, please?
Yep. So to explain it simply from a competitor's point of view, it's basically you need to catch as many fish as you can on any given day, or any given session, I should say. And that ranks you in terms of the most fish points for the day. So your fish points, then the top 10 fish points get allocated what's called team points. So if you finish 11th on the fish points, you get 0 points. It doesn't mean you've had a bad day. It just means that you weren't in the top 10. So first obviously gets 10, second gets 9, and down to 10th, which gets 1 point. Then it gets complicated from there. So you have sponsors of the day lures. So you get a bonus point for a legal fish caught on that. And that's why you'll see some of the scores down low, say 0.48 for the day. That means they've caught one legal fish on a sponsor lure for the day. So they're very handy for the top teams. And then just to make it even more interesting, at the start of the comp, you get to choose your bonus day. So any team points you accrue, say you finish first and you've caught 4 fish on sponsor lures, so you've ended up with roughly 12 points in total. You get 1.5 times that if that's your bonus day. So 12 times 1.5 ends you up with 18 points for the day. So that's a short summary of it. It's a little more complicated that from Tony's end. He has formulas for lengths of fish worth different points for different lengths and all that sort of stuff. But I'm not going to go into that because I just send in the photos and Tony can tell me how much it is. So yeah, that's what he.
Sure, that's really good. I couldn't even got that far. So it is an in-depth way of fishing, but I think it's one that you get the really the right result from. So sometimes definitely. you can see, like I've talked about this a couple of times with a couple of young boys today that I talked to about fishing, and they're going to fish the electric comp in a couple of weeks' time, and I was trying to keep them motivated. And I said, look, put it this way. I said, I fished Glenbourne last year, and I caught 60 bass and come 7th. And I get talking to guys like Mitch Cone, Matty Langford, Mick Johnson. They had 4 bites and caught 4 fish and come first, second, third.
Yep.
It's not always about how many fish you catch, but I think with the way that Tony does the scoring, you can bolster by catching a bigger fish, you can bolster by doubling your points, and it really evens that scenario out for sure.
Yeah, and ultimately the way TV does the scoring, it rewards consistency. Flows and the Pinters were just, and have been for years, just super consistent. Thomas and his dad have won it 3 times, but the most consistent team there. Other teams have a good day, but then drop off, have a good day, drop off. They're always around that sort of 6 to 8 team points for the day. So you times that by 5/8 of 40. That gets you there or thereabouts to the win. So, it's the blows this year were crazy good because they got 64.7 points or something ridiculous, which is a Nats record by 10 points or something stupid. So that's how good they were.
Oh, they were red hot. All right, we better do the postcode. Harry's come in to draw the postcode. We've got Yellow Harry tonight. Look at this. All right. He's got the mullet happening. All right, mate. Who's the postcode winner tonight?
Bailey Lennox 2380.
Bailey Lennox. Hang on, got the wrong pen going here. So Bailey Lennox, what you need to do to get your postcode prize, Bailey, is send me a message and to Corizam Fishing and give us your address, and I will post that out to you tomorrow. So what was that postcode?
Oh God, I clicked off it.
That's right. I'll find it later on. It was Bailey Lennox, wasn't it?
It was 2380.
2380. So this is awesome. So Bailey, give us a thumbs up. Harry, we'll get you back later on again, and we'll talk about. We got ACDC, the mullet happening. Yeah. You should be living in the 80s, mate. All right, thank you, mate. We'll keep going here. We've got plenty of questions still to get through. There he goes. He's popped out again. He's the sidekick. Marie, what do you look for in lake conditions? It's crossed over when fishing Moala.
So I grew up finding sort of about 1.5 meters of water with either stand-up snags or lay-down snags in there. So lay-down snags, just one that's lying over. And then, one thing I have picked up from Thomas, and this is part of that learning I talk about, we used to give pretty much everything 3 casts each. So we'd fish fairly quickly across a flat or across some backwaters or whatever we were fishing. I had a chat to Thomas after he won it the second time, and he said, we fished the water behind you guys, and they caught 3 legals from the same snags we'd fished. And the difference was he fishes it much more carefully and much more deliberately than we do. So, you learn those lessons. You're not listening, you're not learning. So we now fish a little bit more carefully. We'll have 10 or 20 casts in the right spots on snags and try and do that. So, metre and a half water, so 5, 6, 7 feet. That way it'll fish a spinnerbait really well. It'll fish a hard body diving lure really well. It'll fish a swim bait really, really well, and just make sure you hit the right spots. So all those little nooks and crannies in the snag. If you're fishing a stand-up snag, make sure you get all the angles on the base of it. Quite often around those stand-up snags, there's a little depression around the base, and the cod will sit right in that depression there. So you got to make sure you cover the snag. It's a vast sort of difference from what I was doing 10, 20 years ago. We're much more careful, and I think we actually catch more fish this year, just much more small fish. But I think we're actually getting more bites, which is really good.
And for social people out there, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's not about how many big fish you catch. It's about having fun, and if they can learn from any of the tournament guys, it's get out there and really lay into it. Yeah,
and the best people, I've done a lot of association with tournament fishing when I moved up to Queensland. I don't know, 20 years ago now. Worked with ABT, and the top guys of that time and the top guys of the times now really are better under everything. So pay attention to a tournament and what's happening, and if you can get those little gems out of it, you can use it in your own social fishing and have a far better time of it. So be that if you're chasing a big one or you just want to have some action. I'm still, after 50 years of fishing, I'm still for action. I just love catching fish. So, big ones are awesome, but catching fish is more awesome.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, there's nothing more frustrating than sitting on a boat all day casting at nothing. I'd rather catch 10 little ones than nothing at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Damien's got a question here. Do you think comps live scope should be a separate category compared to basic sounders, boaters and non-boaters, to encourage more anglers to join comps that can't afford live scope?
No, I'm a no on that. I mean, I don't even own a boat or a live scope, but I'm a no. Only because I've seen enough guys who know what they're doing do really, really well against guys with live scope. The way the COD Nats especially is set up, it's hard to be make yourself stand out from the crowd with live scope. So take Cade and Derek, who won it on the first day. I think they finished second or third or something like that with live. But then on the non-live scope day and the Dash for Cash, they actually won the Dash for Cash overall. So that's without live. So, yeah, I get what people say about not being able to afford it. And I know if Tony's listening, he'll hate this statement, but it's no different from someone having a 4.5 metre tinny with a 60 versus a 21-foot Ranger with a 150 on the back. Everyone's got access to sounders and technology. They can use Humminbird 360. They can use Charter Waters, which we use a lot, to find all the stuff and fish blind. And you still, with live, you still have to be a good enough angler to talk that fish and not eating it. So, I suppose if I'm going up against good live scope anglers, I'm probably a little concerned. But I think, like most people have said, it's going to be the future. It'll get cheaper. Everyone will get it. Galvo's comp, for instance, is all live. Morgan's comps are all live. I think from memory, and you could correct me on this, that the Freshwater Masters, you're able to use it. So it's really only Tony's comps that deliberately tell people you're not allowed to use it, which is great. I mean, I like the idea of traditional fishing, but I do like fishing too. It's so exciting watching those fish on the screen.
Yeah, for sure. Look, and I'm the same as you. I'm a hard no on it. I think there's this whole misconception that actual live is expensive. When I sit there and I talk to people that do complain about live scope and how expensive it is, but they've got $1,000 fishing rod, an $800 reel, and a boat full of lures that they've never thrown. So, in the same aspect, you can get live scope on a FS9 Lowrance for $1,200 and $1,200 for the unit. So at the same price that most people are buying a 12-inch sounder for, you could have one 9-inch sounder or a 7-inch sounder with live running on it if you wanted to. So it's I've seen guys with polypipers poles. They don't have to go out and buy a $500 pole either. I mean, it is what it is. So I'm thinking that the price will come down as it goes. You watch all these Garmin and Lowrance Gen 1 transducers go on the market very, very soon as everyone wants to upgrade. There's going to be huge. So you'll pick yourself up a bargain that way as well.
Yeah, and don't be afraid of it, and don't think negatively of someone. I'm with that whole LiveScape debate. I'm a big one on if it's legal and you're allowed to do it and someone's catching fish and they're having fun, then good on them. Like, that's great. We should just all be celebrating people having.
Yeah, for sure. And I suppose I'll throw it back to 2 or 3 years ago. Did we ban 360 when Humminbird were the only ones that had it and the Barra guys were smashing it and you had to have a 360 on your boat or you couldn't catch fish? I mean, it's just another talking point, I suppose, that we will continue to talk about until we don't.
Yeah, exactly. And even at the cod nats 3 years ago, Bryn Matthew, who just seems to catch big cod every time he fishes my whaler, only had 360, and he got the biggest fish a couple of years in a row, just using the 360. So that was all fine, and no one seemed to have a problem with that. And that's literally 2 or 3 seconds behind being live.
Yeah. No, for sure. And look, it's a good debate. It's a healthy debate, and we'll continue to debate it. But I'm a strong no against not having it. I do have it on my boat, but when I didn't have it on my boat and other guys did, I wasn't going to whinge about it. I'm out there to fish. So we'll keep going with the questions. So Aaron Lawson wants to know, do you prefer pink, brown, or cinnamon donuts?
So, I suppose the story behind this is part of why I like the cod nats so much. So we room up with Mike Haley and Anthony Pavlo, who fishes Team Venom. And not last year because Mike couldn't come, but the year before, they were almost in an unlosable position in the COD Nats, and then got run down by Thomas and Steve by having a couple of donuts on the last day. So being that Banksy and I like a bit of fun, on the first morning when everyone came to pick up their lunches, sitting on their lunches were a couple of pink iced donuts for the boys, just to remind them that, choking's not such a good thing in a comp, and laughing about it. So they had their best day of the comp on the day we gave them donuts. And, and we didn't score so well. We got a lot of fish, like we said, but we didn't score very well. So Pav decided that Banksy and I deserved some donuts as we were packing up on the last morning. So, yeah, we got presented with a couple of pink iced donuts, which were really, really tasty. So, yeah, if Lawso needs to know, he can buy me pink donuts anytime he wants.
Pink donuts anytime. Excellent. And Zach, your question early on about the cutting, Galvo that runs the team's fishing ones has just commented the Aussie Bass Classic at St Clair in July has a final cut day. So there you go. Get on to Teams Fishing Australia. I think it's .com.au, but if you just Google Teams Fishing Australia, you'll be able to check that out. Look at the stuff for that. So that's really cool. Barry Kelly wants to know where and when is your favourite time to target cod. I'm not sure if he's talking about time of the day or time of the year, so maybe you can cover both.
Okay, well, let's cover both. If I'm going to my whaler, and that would be the only place I'd go if I could go one place, I would be going there from now until the end of April, early May. I think it's the best time as that water cools off from that summer heat. You get a lot less of those wake boats, which are getting ridiculously large up there at the moment. And, I think that the fish are just a bit more active. So time of day wise, I'm probably, and this is changing as I evolve, historically I'd be closer to morning for cod. If you can go pre-dawn, if you're live scoping, that's really good for the first 2 hours of the day. And fishing the snags is good, but if I want to catch some yellow bellies, I'm always right at the death of the day in that evening time. But the part that's changing for us is Banksy and I have been watching moon up, moon down, those sort of bite times there, and I reckon they're a bit more affected by that than I used to give them credit for. So that's an evolving thought in our head.
Yep, for sure. And look, as I said, I'd love to any tournament director, and especially Tony, because he's been running it for so long, that I'd love to get those bite windows when he's getting all of those texts in all at the same time, and see if I could correlate that to a moon phase or whatever it was on the day. I do 20 years research on that. If I could get that information out of him, that would be, as good as any information he could get, I think, because traditionally every day there is that half-hour bite window, and the guy that works out when that is and can go out there just for that half an hour will be a hero, I can tell you.
Yeah, exactly, and that's that's exactly what Thomas has had a few chats to me about. He said anyone can catch me in the bite window. The trick to winning the Nats or any comp for that matter is being able to eke out one or two fish when they're not biting.
Yeah,
so, it's definitely bite windows.
Yeah, and for sure, and that's another thing that I love about, and I've always said this about, especially the COD tournament fishing, is we're fishing in non-prime times most of the time, and most of the comps, doesn't matter if it's on my whaler or wherever it is the fact that you're fishing in non-prime times. 7 o'clock start for the Nationals, isn't it?
7:30, I think it is, yeah.
So 7:30, so you missed the first 2 hours of daylight as it is. That prime time. So it does make it harder to catch those fish outside of the prime bite windows. I do have a bit of a shit stir every now and again on the what we'll call the Instagram heroes that continue to go out and post photos of big fish when they're only fishing prime times. That's not easy. They're good on them for doing that, and it's not, not everyone can do that, but to sit there and say that you're better than anyone else because you're going out in prime times is not really the way it goes. I'd back a KD's or a Pinter over any Instagram warrior in a head-to-head competition for sure.
Oh, you look at, Thomas is fortunate that he he does a bit of guiding, and he does get on the lake in those prime times. If you want some really big fish, go and check out some of his posts when it's not tournament fishing. Don't worry, he can catch them as good as anyone. As can, Caden, what so many meters.
Yep, for sure. Now, a few questions. There was one earlier on about props. How many props do you think it? I think it was Neil. And it would be an unlimited amount of prop marks in every stump in that dam.
Yeah, we snapped boat we borrowed from Proper Electric this trip. So big shout out to Ricky Dow, Hot Dog Lures. He provided us a spare that we used to get us back on the water. So it cost us an hour of fishing, which was not fun. We thought we might have to make a trip down to Shepparton, I think was the closest place to get a prop. So Ricky saved us a lot. But I've done personally, I've wrecked 3 props there. The boat we used, they did 2 props and a lower leg case on one of the boat ramps as the water was dropping there. So she sorted some props out, that for sure.
Yeah, and look, it doesn't matter. I use Laurent, so I've got the social maps. I've got the I pay for what's the other maps they call it? The mapping program. Yeah. So I use that and know where all the channels are, but still hit something. I think the last time I fished in that, so I was out the back of the everyone was having dinner and I had to rush over to Shepparton to pick up some lower casings from Avonroot and whatnot and come back, and about midnight I finished putting it together, and then we couldn't get the thing started the next day. So, it's always a challenge. My whaler will always be a challenge, but, that's just part of its why I love my whaler is, you just can't go tear assing around everywhere. You go to Copeland in the middle of winter and it sounds like mosquitoes, flying all over the town. There's people just flying everywhere. I mean, I know that there's probably guys, and we won't name Spider or Painter or anything like that know the dam back to front that could probably do it in the dark, but there's not many of us out there that wouldn't go to the one end to the other without hitting something in the dark, even with maps.
Yeah, even with maps, like, just to point out those 2 boys, I've actually been in the boat surface fishing with Painter and, suction cup mud at some of the stunts he was pulling in the dark. He knows that so well, that top half of the lake just incredibly well. So, everything was fine. It was all safe. But, when you're not prepared for it, it gives you a little bit of a heart starter. So, it's but everyone who fishes it has broken something there, and if they haven't, they're about to.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a waiting game. Hey, Harry's inside. I'll get him to come out so we can draw the next prize. We'll finish up a couple of questions, and then that'll pretty much take us up to the hour mark. So we normally always run for an hour. We've got a few questions left here. Paul has said, what's your proudest achievement as a major influencer in the fishing industry?
New people. There you go. Like I said, I'm past that stage where it's all about personal. I love getting the new people in and seeing them do really, really well. So if I can help someone on their journey and by giving them a hint or helping them out in some way, shape, or form, I'm pretty happy to see them. So I really enjoy that. Gives me a buzz.
And I know Dale said something earlier on, but I can't find his comment about humble and everything else. But I know for sure that it would have been a good 6 years ago, because I've been in Wodonga for 5 years. So I come down from Brisbane to the Nationals, and Matty was due to come down, but he pulled out, and I fished with Benny Farrow, and we were really struggling after day one. And we got talking to you that night. You told us olive spinnerbaits that night, and we went out and caught them the next day. You didn't know us from a bar of soap. It was our first national. So you do practice what you preach. I know that for sure. And you probably don't even remember that conversation, but I do. And it was well before we even knew each other as fishing people. So, you do practice what you preach. That's for sure.
There's no point secret squirrel stuff. I grew up doing fishing media pretty much my whole life, magazines and all that sort of stuff. So, my general perception of it all is just help people be better, help them have fun. I think if more people learn to love fish, then more people stand up and protect fish. So that was the core of some of that. History as an environmental scientist way back when. The hair was a lot browner and less grey. But I want people to appreciate the fish and and just watching them put a smile on their face. It's awesome.
Yep, for sure. All right, Harry, come around and let's find out who is the winner now. These are pretty cool lures. So there's 3 big ones. I would be using these on Barra and stuff up north. I'd probably throw this nice purple one for cod. So it's a pack of 3 there. All you had to do was ask a question. Harry draws it out at random, and we're going to find out which question that is. I haven't even got the glasses on, Harry. Here we go. You read it out for us.
Damien Crosscow asked, do you think Incom's live scope should be in a separate category compared to basic sounders, i.e. boaters and non-boaters, to encourage more anglers to join comps that can afford live scope?
Jesus, you'll be taking over my job very soon. How good was that? All right, awesome job. So Damien Crosscow, you've won the prize pack tonight. I will send that out to you, but you've got to send me your address through to Corey Sam Fishing, and we'll get that on to you. Well done, mate. High five. You'll be doing my job very, very soon. If I call in sick one week, would you take over?
Maybe.
We're chewing the fat with the Harry.
We'll figure that out.
We'll figure that out, he says. All right, Rebel, you better go and get ready for bed.
I love you all, but not in a romantic way.
Love you all, but not in a romantic way. There you go. All right, let's go through and find out if there's any last questions. Christy has asked, do you think the start times of comp should start early to include that bite window? I think that's more an insurance thing than anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, I say no. But the COD Nats is a bit different apart from Dash Day where you can start on your spot. But yeah, I just think you need to have that in the sky just to make sure everyone's as safe as they can be. With comp fishing, you fish when you're told to fish, so that's just part of the comp fishing scene.
Yep, for sure. Shane wants to know, Boothie, did you give the old faithful number 2 one-eyed purple stump jumper a run on Hard Body Day?
No, we use sponsor lure only. So Winky didn't come out, unfortunately. To be fair, he's actually sitting in the cabinet behind me there. My missus has taken his legs off and put him on display, so Winky doesn't get to see the water anymore, which is sad for Winky and sad for me. And
that's part and parcel. And we didn't really stumble, we didn't really bumble past it, I suppose. But the sponsored companies that sponsor the Nationals, we have lure days, specific lures. Specific companies' lures that you have to throw. So it's not just if you want the extra points, Hard Body Day. Yes, you can throw stumpies if you want, but you're not going to get the points that you will if you throw on, say, a Gidgee or whatever the lure of the day is. I know Ricky Goward's come on board with Cod Dog, so it's given another avenue for lures as well. I know you guys, Wilson, do your stuff. The Bone Focus would have gone great guns again this year on the swim bait day. I can tell you from personal, the new colours absolutely blow me away. I've only been out for 2 trips and caught lots of fish on the new colours already. I'm not gonna go into too many new colours until after Galvo's comp because I don't want to give away too many secrets, but I will give it away during or after the comp if it works well.
Absolutely, it's all good. They're all good. There you go.
I love the old colours, but I just, not many lures you grab out of your kit and, first cast, you catch a fish and you go, wow, I've got real confidence in this now. And then, 5 or 6 fish later, you're like, hang on a minute, I better put this away. I don't want to lose it before the next comp. So, Really, really cool.
There are, I work in a company that sells them, but do they catch them?
All right, we'll go. We've hit the hour mark, so we're just about to call up stumps. I think I've got everyone's question. We'll use Katie Polton's as the last question of the night. If you've only got one type of lure to throw at my whaler, what is it?
It's a spinnerbait, probably a 1/2 ounce or 5/8 ounce, single willow blade, because I fish up in the rivers mainly where the current is flowing a bit harder. On the flats, I'd probably change it out for a couple of double Colorado blades with a trailer. So, yeah, spinnerbait for sure. If I had to go catch a cod in my whale, it'd be a spinnerbait every day.
There you go. Awesome. And I would tend to agree with that. And I'm not – I suppose one thing I learned from Ricky Doyle, who's a great fisherman on my whaler in his own right, was the size of the spinnerbaits too. Like, you don't have to go out and throw massive spinnerbaits to catch big cod at my whaler. It doesn't matter what sort of size, as long as it's in front of their face, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep, I agree that there's no need to go really, really big. And part of the reason of that is that you'll miss a lot of those little fish as well. So
yeah, for sure.
Or I'm into stuff and having fun. So, if I was targeting a big one, I'd probably be live scoping with a giant big swim boat.
Yeah,
it's just general fish, spinnerbait, not so. Yeah, anything Ricky Doyle says, I'm with.
No, for sure. All right. I am just going to go over the housekeeping for tonight. Damien Crossgold, you won the question prize, so send us a message to Corey Sam Fishing. And Bailey Lennox is the postcode winner. And I will default this one here. I will just say straight up that if you don't get in contact with me and send me your address, I'm not going to follow it up. And, if you put your postcode in at the start of the day and you get drawn out, it goes back into the draw for next week. I'm not going to chase up people. The first year I spent most of the week trying to chase people's addresses. So if you don't want the prize, put in the comments, draw it again, and we'll draw it again. So, that's what it's all about. I want these lures and stuff to go out to people that actually want them, not sit in their tackle box or just not claim them. So make sure you send me a message or, tell us to redraw it on the night if you're not interested in the lure, because it's all just free stuff. And it cost me $20 a week in postage. So, all right. Thanks, everyone, for coming on again tonight. Another great show. Thanks, Boothie, for coming on, talking about the Nationals. I'm not sure who's on as a guest next week. I was hoping to talk to a few of the Bass guys about Blue Rock and Glen Maggie, but it seems to me that a lot of guys have gone over to watch Carl in the States for the Bassmaster Classic. Wish Carl all the best. Hope he rocks it this year. He started with confidence, so really looking forward to that. Anything else you want to say before you go, Boothie?
Just if anyone's ever got any questions, it's easy to ask someone. Most of the guys I know, most of the guys who fish the comps are pretty easy with their information and willing to help. So don't be afraid to ask. There are no stupid questions, just stupid people who are afraid to answer them. Or to ask them. So ask the question, and someone will put up their hand and give you as much help as they can.
Yep, for sure. All right, guys. Yes, Fear My Heart is the call for this week, and hopefully Carl does really well. Boothie, thanks very much for coming on. Stay there. I'll just disconnect from the feed, and we'll have a chat off air. But thank you, everyone, and good night.